I got a call once, about a few months ago, from someone furious, and they said, I just watched Joel Fuhrman's video, and he just said to avoid salt, and that's not accurate. We absolutely need salt. You need the right kind of salt, and if you get the right salt, it's a very important thing, and you must have salt, and you got to take that, edit that video, because it's not true. Salt is important. It's just got to be the right kind of salt. What do you guys think about salt?
So I should start out with the answer anyway. And I want to say to Alan that my mother's also 93 years old. And she took her a long time to come around and eat healthier too. But anyway, one of the things we consider critical to saving human life on this planet and stopping the vast amount of people dying of heart attacks and strokes is this incredible addiction and craziness we've developed with eating so much salt. I mean, the American Heart Association recommends that when people have heart disease, they cut their salt intake down to 1,500 milligrams a day. And I'm saying, you mean, I guess we should do that with smokers too. People with lung cancer should cut their cigarettes back once they find out they have lung cancer. The reason why this doesn't work is because the damage from salt occurs insidiously and slowly all through our lives. And salt doesn't just raise our blood pressure, it also damages the endothelial, reduces nitric oxide production, causes inflammation in the interior wall of your blood vessels, causes microvascular hemorrhaging, increasing the risk of autoimmune disease, suppresses T helper cells, increasing the risk of autoimmune conditions, increases risk of stomach cancer. What I'm saying right now is that our bodies are designed to consume the perfect amount of sodium that's in natural foods, and we truly need sodium, but sodium is an ingredient in all natural plants. And I'm also saying that a low-salt diet is not a low-salt diet, it's a high-salt diet. Because the studies on the American Heart Association recommendations of 1,500 milligrams a day show that death rates go down as they approach 1,500 milligrams a day, yes, but they continue to follow the data. As they go down from 1,500 to 1,000, heart attack rates and stroke rates continue to go down. They don't stop at 1,500 milligrams a day. You know, what I'm also saying that the salt years matter. In other words, if let's say just for example, if we agree that 1,000 milligrams of sodium today is appropriate for most people. Now, I know that there are various medical conditions and people who lose more salt in their urine and people with POTS and all types of diseases that require sodium, but that's not talking about 99% of us who have normal kidney and salt metabolism. For us, 1,000 milligrams a day of sodium is probably the upper limit of normal for our long-term health. So if you go to 2,000 for 10 years, that's 10 salt years. If you go 3,000 a day, that's 2,000 above the normal amount of 1,000. 3,000 above the normal rate of 1,000 is 2 salt years. For 50 years of your life, that's 100 salt years. You're going to be at risk of stroke of those 100 salt years if you ate that much salt, 3,000 a day for 50 years. What I'm saying is you're going to pay a price for your lifetime exposure of salt, and it changes your sympathetic tone in your brain. It changes the behavior of your blood vessels. You don't just cut out salt and have these diseases go away. When you cut out smoking, it takes 15 years for the damage from smoking to start to resolve itself. When you cut out salt, it takes years for the damage to go away, not weeks. The reason why we see people cut out salt and they're not do well is because they're waiting till they have advanced heart disease and heart failure, and then they cut out salt, and they're cutting out salt at such a late stage in the pathology that at that point it doesn't matter that much, and they have so much damage from the high salt diet that at that point it is a stress to their system to lower salt that radically. What I'm saying is it's a confusing subject matter, but if we really want to have maximal effects at reducing strokes and heart attacks and other diseases, remember that a diet is better not having any additional salt over and above what's in natural foods. And Himalayan salts and Celtic salts and salt from the Rock of Gibraltar, the bottom of the deepest sea or the backside of the moon, it doesn't make a difference because they all have 2,200 milligrams of sodium per teaspoon, not per tablespoon, per teaspoon. And when you throw in an extra couple of thousand milligrams of sodium to your body every day, you pay a price. And one more thing. People on vegan diets, on healthy vegan diets, can die of hemorrhagic strokes because the type of stroke caused by atherosclerosis and clots are called embolic or ischemic strokes, not hemorrhagic stroke. The atherosclerotic process that increases your risk of a ischemic stroke may add some thickening and protection to the brain, to the fragile blood vessels in the brain as they age, against the effects of a high salt diet and high blood pressure, causing rupture of fragile vessels in the brain as people get over on otherwise plant-based diets. For example, in Asian countries, in these who eat these high salt diets, there's 10 times the risk of having a hemorrhagic stroke than there is in the United States, where we eat burgers and bacon. And also, it's also true that very low cholesterol levels are linked to higher risk of hemorrhagic stroke, not lower risk. What I'm saying right now is that if we want to wipe out all strokes, meaning hemorrhagic strokes and ischemic or embolic strokes, it's not enough to just eat right. We also have to eat right and not salt our food. So you can still have a hemorrhagic stroke on a diet that otherwise is protective against clot or atherosclerosis. I could say much more, but I think I'll stop here and let other people comment.
So we talk about a whole plant food SOS-free diet. SOS stands for the International Symbol of Danger, and it includes salt, oil, and sugar. So lots of people are saying, okay, we'll get rid of the oil. Some people will get rid of the sugar and refined carbohydrates, but you also have to, as Dr. Fuhrman says, get rid of the salt. Salt does something else in addition to the things that were just mentioned, and that's that it stimulates passive overeating. So even though there's no calories in salt, salt helps make you get fat. And the way that it does that is it stimulates your internal mechanisms to eat more. For example, if you take an animal or a human and let them eat to satiety, to where they feel satisfied, they'll eat a certain amount of any product, let's say rice, for example. Take that, everything else being equal, that same rice that's been salted, you'll find you'll eat more before you reach satiety. Now, some people say, well, yeah, because it tastes better. Well, of course it tastes better, because the salt stimulates dopamine production in the brain, which is the pleasure-seeking neurochemical that comes from this artificial stimulation. So if you want to find out a simple strategy, whatever you're eating, whatever your diet is, just take the salt out, and you will find you'll reach satiety at a lower level, and you'll tend to overeat less, and you'll end up being more successful in managing and attacking your obesity.
I just want to add one thing, is that when you go from a high salt diet to a diet where we just eat natural foods, for all those years, your body was trained to excrete large amounts of salt in the urine. And now you have a very low sodium diet. Your kidney doesn't all of a sudden have the ability to reclaim and hold on to sodium. It's still putting out excess sodium because it thinks you're on a high sodium diet still. So temporarily, when people switch from a high sodium diet to what I consider, or we consider, a normal sodium diet, which is much lower in sodium, most natural foods don't have more than half the amount of calories, half the amount of sodium as it does calories. That means we're eating 1,500 calories a day, we're not taking in more than 700 milligrams of sodium a day in our diet. If we're taking in 2,000 calories a day, our diet is having less than usually 900 milligrams of sodium in it, because natural foods don't have that amount of sodium. What I'm saying right now is that temporarily you could become a little hyponatremic and a little fatigued, and your blood may be low in sodium, because your body takes a few weeks to be able to hold on to sodium more normally after being on a high salt diet for so long. But the advantage of that is once you're on a very low sodium diet for a long period of time, you stop losing salt in your urine, and you don't lose salt in your sweat. So that when you go out and play tennis or basketball, I'm saying tennis, I'm saying basketball to accommodate Alan, because I'm a tennis player, he's a basketball player. When we're sweating in 90-degree heat, we tolerate the heat better. We can play and sweat in the summer, and it doesn't bother us. And we're not wiped out afterwards because we're not losing sodium in our sweat. We can run and we can do stuff because our body is not pushing sodium out all over the place. So we have a huge benefit of being stable and being acclimated to a lower sodium diet, which takes time, but the benefits are worth it.
Okay, so I'll welcome you to my world, where our people, and first of all, I will agree with you. There is a population of people who should have no salt. And for some people, it really quickly spikes their blood pressure. I totally agree that there is a population of people who should have no added salt. But we're dealing with people who are coming into our office, and they've gained 25 pounds and their cholesterol is 190. And so what you have to look at is what level of restriction can you apply to these people and get them to come back, okay? And my place isn't residential. They go home and have to do this. And a lot of our people are all over the country. We're not even seeing them face to face. So I think the practicality, I mean, if you look at salt restriction as a public health policy, the World Health Organization, the American Heart Association, they will all tell you it's 99.9% failure rate. So I'm not disputing that some people should eat no salt, but I think, again, we have just got to expand our horizons a little bit to say that there's only so much restriction that you can do with some people and get them to play ball with you. And if you lose them all at the gate by drawing the line in the sand, you win the battle, but you lose the war. We have got to find a way, you guys, to get hundreds of millions of people to do this. And it isn't going to happen with what's going on right now. We're going to have to reach out there and get people who are willing to do this. So I think we have a compliance issue, a willingness issue, and we have a necessity issue. I come back to the question we're always asking ourselves. What is the level of restriction that we need to impose upon this person to get them moving forward with their health? And then we can hope that they do more later. Now, if they've had strokes, I totally get the specific circumstances in which complete salt restriction is necessary. And on the sugar issue, I totally get there are some people who can't ever let it touch their lips because they're going to eat 7 dozen donuts. I'm not one of them, okay? So when you're telling somebody like me that, you lose me entirely. And when you lose people like me, you're losing a whole bunch of people because I'm a whole lot more willing than most people are. So again, I don't think there's a lot of disagreement with this group. I think what we're trying to do is figure out how to apply this in different sets of circumstances so we can get more people going along with this, because if we don't make some faster progress pretty soon, we really are doomed. I mean, financially, we can't afford to take care of all the sick people. And the cost to us in terms of lost brain power, manpower, I mean, the workforce is going to hell. We have a lot of problems related to people's poor state of health. So we're going to have to figure out how to make this quadruple every year rather than this very tiny incremental growth that's going on. So that's my comment.
I appreciate the idea that you want to get people in the door, but the reality is 2/3 of people are overweight or obese. A significant percentage are diabetic. Hypertension is the majority. 30% over people aged 20 are now hypertensive. So 40% over 25. So it's not like there's a whole bunch of normal, healthy people out there and a few sick people that we're trying to apply specialized intervention to. The fact is you have an incredibly sick, addicted population. And although, yes, if you tell alcoholics they can't drink at all, most of them aren't going to be walking in for care. If you tell overweight people that you need to go on a whole plant food SOS-free diet, it's going to be hard to get them in the door. It's going to be hard to initiate a program. But the problem is, unless we give them a program that actually works long term, we're not going to sustain their interest either.
But Alan, you're assuming that everybody is addicted and everybody is on that store. I think the difference really is the populations of people we're dealing with. And not everybody is overweight and pre-diabetic or diabetic because they're addicted to food and they can't stop themselves and the salt makes them eat everything in sight. Some of them just didn't know. I didn't know. I used to be fat. I wasn't addicted to anything. I just didn't know that a salad with cheese, ham, egg, and avocado on it wasn't good for you, okay? And I thought that what you did is you just starved yourself for 2 months to get into something, get into a dress for an event. That's the way I lived my life. So I was a person, and I had cervical dysplasia. I'm the typical client that comes to see me. I used to be, all right? Overweight, should have been scared about a health scare, didn't know that I should have been scared about it because my doctor said, oh, we just cut it out, it's no problem, everybody gets it. And I believed him. I used to drink the medical Kool-Aid too. So what I didn't need was for somebody to tell me, you know what your problem is? You're an alcohol addict, you're a salt addict, you're a sugar addict. You can't ever have a donut again because it will kill you, because I don't think I ever would have listened to that. That wasn't me. And I keep coming back to what I said earlier. If we're going to have a one-size-fits-all situation where we're going to do what the average cardiologist and endocrinologist is doing out there, this is what we do for people like you. I don't need any information from you. I don't need to know anything about you. I don't need to know anything about how you got into the situation you're in, because everybody who is fat and overweight and has these problems, if we don't do it this way, they're not going to succeed, because I don't think that's true. And I think we are just losing people out there when we put that out there as the thing to do. Now, I want to make one statement in front of everybody. I have sent hundreds of people to you. I think what you do is incredible. So the not lack of confidence in what you do, totally support it. I've sent people out there who were addicted, who needed to, some of them have stayed for months. And I've got people coming all the time. You keep threatening to name a building after me, and one of these days I'm going to make you do it. So there is room for both of these ideas. That's my point.
Well, I'd just like to share a couple of fun facts that might be helpful. There's a reason salt is so seductive for human beings. And the reason is that only herbivores have a taste for and drive to seek out sodium. And that's why cows, deer, and other herbivores actually seek out salt licks. And why is that? It's because the predominant cation in plant foods is actually
That's
potassium.
a myth. There's no animals in nature that seek out salt licks. That's a myth.
Deer and antelope actually do seek sodium-rich mineral deposits, and it's because plant foods are very low in sodium. Now, they don't eat it to the point that we do, but they do seek it. And there were studies done back in the 1950s where they took dog chow, artificially depleted it of sodium, and they would put a bowl of salt and a bowl of dog chow out, and the dogs came out every day, dutifully ate their dog chow, and eventually died of hyponatremia because they had nothing in their brain that told them to seek out salt. Why is that? It's because blood is full of sodium. So nature assumes if a carnivore is living, it's living because it's eating other animals. If it's eating other animals, it's going to get plenty of salt. But if you're an herbivore and you're eating plenty of plants, eventually you're going to need to supplement those plants with a little bit of salt. My only point is that's why we like salt. I'm not saying we should be eating as much as we're eating, because we shouldn't be. We're overdoing it, just like we're overdoing sugar. But that is where that drive to eat and that taste for salt comes from, the fact that we are herbivores. And the fact is that most herbivores do seek sodium. Second thing, our taste buds replace themselves every 21 days. It's a continual process, but roughly every 21 days, they completely replace themselves. The point there is, if somebody is trying to get over a craving, tell them to hang in there, because after about 21 days, their desire for whatever it is they're trying to get over will lessen as their taste buds replenish themselves.
We could have difference of opinion on this, but I think that there's in studying the evidence on that, I think that it's not true that herbivores seek out salt licks. And there's, obviously there's hundreds of different species of animals that live on vegetables, and the vegetables, including primates. And we're primates, and primates don't seek out salt licks or have any history of eating salt or seeking out salt in their diets. So I think that's it's putting the argument in an area that doesn't apply to humans, and isn't even realistic. Vegetables are not deficient in sodium.